I think we're good now. So, welcome to my episode with Corrin, who is Corrin Woodard is another CPA that has been working with us for about a year now. She has decided that she wants to do something different in the industry, and I can't be more proud of what she is actually trying to accomplish with her clients, where she actually helps them go deeper into tax planning and how to not pay the IRS more money than they deserve. So, welcome, Corinne. Thanks for joining me today. I know this is a really busy time for you, so I'm super excited that you're here with me today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, one thing I want to get started with is you started with this like a year ago. Where were you at a year ago where you decided, I just got to take this plunge?
I was trying all the things to try to make the business work for me. I had taken over my dad's business and bought another firm and was realizing that both of those were probably not the best decision in retrospect because almost none, I shouldn't say none, but a lot of the clients in the books of business that I had acquired were not a good fit for where I wanted to be. But rather than me being able to recognize that, I was just like fighting against it. And I just was uh mad all the time and like a shell of a person, and I wasn't making the money I needed to make. I couldn't hire the teams I wanted to hire. I was just like stuck, and my personal life was falling apart. So I was just like, I need help, and I know you've been through it. I know you've been where I was a year ago. So
Hmm.
you were the first person I thought of when I needed to reach out to someone.
Hmm. So you did what I actually honestly did too, is where we tried to fix it just by bringing in more clients to think that it would actually solve the problem, but it actually compacted the problem instead of actually like, okay, let's look at what really the problem is. And I see so many others doing the same. What advice would you have for somebody that is trying to do that same thing?
Don't laugh too hard at me. Slow down to speed up.
Hmm.
That's become like my mantra because I thought, because of the way the industry used to run, the way my dad ran the firm for 40 years, the more clients you have, the better off you are. But that's not actually the case because my personality, I can't keep track of 300 clients. I'm not able to keep track of where I am with all of those people or what's going on with them. And we're not actually helping them. We're just doing a tax return because we can't do anything else at that point. So where I want to be is actually helping the people I can help the most, which is higher wealth people, service-based business owners, save on their taxes, actually do something to help them and not just file a tax return.
Hmm. So coming to this realization of that, you decided that because you just hit on that, it was over 300 clients. And I know you from getting to know you over the last year, you're really big on relationships and you love to have relationships with people. And so is that one reason why that this business just didn't feel good to you?
It wasn't feeling good to me because there's literally no way to know that many people on any sort of level. I think studies show that any person can only really know about 100 people well enough to be familiar with them, but you're still not going to know every detail of their lives. To
Hmm.
do tax planning, I really need to know what's going on. I need to be able to take the time to listen to what my clients' goals are and look at what's going on with their business and their finances, their personal finances, and put the picture together to help them come up with the strategies to actually save. I can't do any of that if I'm trying to talk to 310 people. And 310 was just my book of business. My dad has another 200 on top of that. So imagine when he retires, I would have about 500 people to try to keep up with. That's just not sustainable for my
Hmm.
brain.
And you were also, if I remember right, you had brought on team thinking that that would help solve the problem as well. And it just made the problem even worse. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Right, because I was trying to throw money at the problem like so many of us do, but we also couldn't afford to pay the rates that like truly experienced tax professionals would want. So we were ending up having to hire people that needed a lot of training and were in some cases were not just not a good fit for the job that we had hired them for. And that wasn't helping anybody. I didn't have the processes to be able to train the people to be able to do the work because we were just running at the speed of light all the time. So I had to slow down to speed up. So now I have the right person on my team, right people on my team, and I'm moving stuff around and figuring out what the best division of work is going to be moving forward. As we move into this era where our firm will ultimately have less than 150 clients, where we can actually get to know them and help them.
Mm-hmm. Because it is about helping people. That's what we got into the business for. But a lot of times, like both of us ended up with in a business that we weren't able to help anybody, and we weren't even able to help ourselves a lot of time. And I know you're also one of our bookkeeping clients where we actually do your books as well. What, because I know you've had so many changes over the years, but once you got your data where you could see what was going on, how did that impact the decisions you were making?
I was frustrated because I didn't have good numbers to work off of before. And I felt like I was constantly trying to just run spreadsheets and figure stuff out on the back of a napkin. And honestly, I wasn't terribly far off from what I thought was happening when I saw the actual numbers. It just gave me that like boost of confidence that my gut was right, that this business I had acquired was not profitable for us. It probably wasn't the best move for the business in the long term, but I have to find a way out of the wet paper bag. And
Mm-hmm.
you guys helped me do that. I mean, I'm not out of it yet, but we can see the light and
Mm-hmm.
we're getting closer.
Yes, absolutely. Because so, and what specific strategies that because we have given you so much, and you've taken it and you've just ran with it. What specific thing has stuck out that has impacted you the most?
Oh, geez. I think every like month I have something that like you guys say that just changes my life view. Um, but I think the biggest missing key was really like hearing from you and how you were able to transform your business without like going bankrupt. I was so worried because during all of this disaster, I'm getting divorced. So now I have to survive on just my income, and this business isn't paying me enough to survive. So I literally don't have a choice. I need to change because what's happening right now isn't working anymore, or what was
Hmm.
happening then wasn't
Yeah,
working anymore.
yeah.
So, and then like one of the other things that was super impactful was the personality or working genius concepts, where like we all took this working genius assessment and figured out where our geniuses were, and that was a huge eye-opener to me, why some of my past team members had not worked out, why the people that are on the team with me now probably will work out long term, and being kinder to myself about the fact that I'm just not strong in some areas and I need other people to step in and be that strength for me because I'm weak.
Hmm. And that's kind of the point of having actually a team, is because they fill in your gaps. And what I see a lot of times in the accounting industry is we hire people just like us, and so therefore it doesn't fill in any gaps. And so that's one thing that I see that holds the businesses back, because you're hiring people just like you. But like what you said, Corinne, is like they need to have certain strengths that I don't have. And I know that's what I've done in my firm, because I don't want to do it all. I really
Yeah,
don't.
I don't
And
either.
and so that's not what we started a business for. And I know you came from public accounting from a bigger firm
Yeah.
to this business. So you just brought the concepts, and I see so many do this. They bring the concepts from public accounting, even though they didn't like it there, but then they implement them in their own firm, because that's the only way they know. Is that what you kind of have felt too?
Right. So I knew the way the firm was being run before I took it over was not how like the big four run. And I was like, well, if I could just get it to work more like the big four, then I'll be able to figure it out. But the problem was is that I was handcuffed to this book of business that was not paying enough for us to get to the next level. So we were simultaneously not making enough money, but also not able to take on more work because we couldn't afford to hire any more people. So we were just stuck in this hamster wheel of like, I'm never going to be able to get out from underneath this immensely suffocating pile of work and make enough money to make this business worth my while personally. Not to be selfish about it, but I left a really good paying job to take this firm over. And I mean, I could go work for twice as much for someone else. So why, like, I need to make this work out for myself so
Yeah.
that it can work for my clients.
And you and I have talked about like, okay, yeah, we could go get another job, but what holds us back from doing that?
I was miserable working for other people. I tried to make it work, but ultimately are never going to find another company that is exactly aligned with your value system unless you create your own. And I'm so to my core about treating people right. I want to treat my team right. I want to treat my clients right. And I was beside myself last year when I reached out to you because I couldn't do any of those things.
So what was the biggest mindset shift that you've had? I know there's been a lot, but I mean, were you just like, I'm just done?
I think it was just, I woke up one day and was just like, everyone around me is draining my energy, not bringing anything to fill me up. Right. And that's something wrong with that. I can't do that anymore. Something needs to change. I think what really pushed me over the edge was knowing that I was going through this divorce and having no more time to figure this out. I can't wait another 3 years. I have to do it now. And I can't keep dilly-dallying about, well, this person is usually pretty nice and I understand why they're upset. They've shown me over and over again they don't value what I do for them. So why am I giving up my peace to make them happy?
Yeah. And now you're working towards, so who is your ideal client? I know you've done some deep thinking on this, on the ideal client, and you've gone a long way with figuring that out. But how much easier, number one, who is your ideal client, and how much easier is it now to spot them versus the ones that are the ones that you're trying to get rid of?
I could go on and on with the list of criteria, but really for me, the short version, the Cliff Notes version is individual households earning over $300,000 who own a business and or multiple rental properties. My business owners have to be licensed professionals. Most of them are mental health professionals and lawyers. That just I tend to work best with these folks. So, and I know how their businesses run. I used to work in healthcare and I work with a lot of lawyers. So, and lawyers actually run their firms very similar to how accountants used to run our firms.
But before this, you had like a modge podge of people, and so you were trying to service everyone. But from what I'm understanding from you and what I'm hearing, you were trying to service everyone, but technically you felt like you were servicing no one.
No one was getting what they wanted, including myself, out of the deal. So yeah, we had to change something. And yeah, because the previous way this industry is run is you work with anybody who wants to pay your bill. So we had everybody from people earning $7,000 a year to business owners generating $24 million a year. How does one person understand the entire tax code enough to serve all those people? They don't.
That's a great point, because even you and I both see tax preparers all the time that are like, it's just a tax return. I can service anybody on a tax return. But when you get to those higher level clients, they need more, they expect more, and they should have more. Yeah. And so, and then and you've even realized that some of your clients really and truly should have went to a free tax prep because of the way they were, or they didn't even need to file. But you never had time to actually analyze the data that you had. But then once you did analyze the data, how much clearer did that make you once you realized and you looked at, hey, what their AGI is versus their bill? And then, I mean, you did all kind of analytics on this to figure this out. It wasn't an easy process for you.
No, it wasn't. So we did the process that you guys guided us through, where we just decided if we felt the warm and fuzzies or the like, oh, I don't want to ever hear from that person again. And then we went a step further because we have so many clients. It is nearly impossible. I was finding that I don't even know what's going on with this person. So I can't make a decision on whether or not I want to keep them as a client. So I had to add the AGI in because there had to be some differentiator with that volume of clients. Like, and I don't know them all personally because of how I've acquired them. So that really opened my eyes. I knew that one of the prior firm owners had been sending letters to people every year telling them that they qualified for free tax prep, but I did not realize that we had about 55 people earning less than $100,000 a year in our book of business. The majority of those people qualify for free tax prep. If they qualify for something for free, why would they be willing to keep paying my fee increases? They were the loudest ones about my fee increases for good reason. Because they could definitely get the service cheaper somewhere else. It's just not going to be at my firm.
So you got really clear on what you wanted. And you actually were like, drew the line in the sand and said, this is what I want. Anything below that is not what I'm going to accept.
Right. And I also said to all of our clients, we are not answering the phone for client questions. We are not answering faxes. We are not answering emails. Everything goes through a secure portal. If it's not in there, it didn't happen. I was told by both previous firm owners that would never work. Nobody would ever do it. Guess who's doing it? Everybody. And the ones who aren't, we're just telling them, sorry, this isn't the right firm for you.
So speaking of portals and task management, that's kind of one of my favorite subjects ever. So you have been trying to get a task management system up and running. You have dealt with pushback from team members. You've dealt with pushback from clients. How did you finally say, this is the way it's going to be, or you're no longer here?
I just realized that there was so much chaos going on. We were answering the same question for the same person 3 and 4 times because they didn't know where to go because they were given so many different options. So I took it on myself to take responsibility for that. We have not been clear, or if we had been clear, we were not being strict about that boundary, but now we need to be. We went from taking 5 to 10 days to respond to some people. Now we're able to respond within 24 to 48 hours because we centralized everything and we have one place to go. And we can actually see where the last time we communicated this with this person was without having to hunt it down in 4 different places to figure out what we talked about last. I know these concepts from working in public accounting because everything, if you didn't do it, it's not in the work papers, you didn't do it. But that's not how a lot of small tax firms work. So part of why I did that was I now have everything documented. Every word that I've said to a client is documented.
Yep.
Every word that to me is documented. And if I ever forget that somebody said something nasty to me, I can go back and look at it.
And you also put a rein around your engagements because you brought up if it's not in the task management system, it does not happen either. And that's the same thing that happened in accounting firm in the big, the bigger accounting firms is they were pretty quick to bill if it wasn't in scope. But a lot of the smaller firms, they don't have all the people that they have in the bigger firms. So it goes through the cracks. So when you have people communicating through text, phone, email, Facebook Messenger, LinkedIn, and all the different places people were communicating, it cost the firm so much money and out of scope work because they're sending a message to your team member. Your team member's like, okay, I'll do it, just because we say make sure the clients are happy.
Yep.
But you had a lot of that going on within your firm as well, if I remember correctly.
Oh my gosh, so much out of scope work. Part of it for multiple reasons. A lot of it was prior farm owners did it all for free and never asked to be paid for it. So it was helping our clients understand this is not how it's going to go anymore. And that's why I'm saying, honestly, if I had to do it all over again, I probably just would have started from scratch with my own concept and my own niche client and gone out and marketed and got my own clients, because the majority of the folks I'm working with are used to getting over delivered for a McDonald's price. And there is almost no way to convert a client who's used to that level of service into an ideal client.
I completely agree. It is hard. And a lot of times we hang on too long. We hang on to them too long, thinking that we can reform them. And we have this mindset shift of, well, they need me because they have all these issues and I'm the only one that can help them and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you're not helping yourself, your business, or your team, because how frustrating is that for a team to have to overcome all of the stuff that we've talked about today?
I went from having a full-time person whose responsibility was chasing down client communications and making sure everybody got responses to having one part-time person. Like,
yeah.
What?
Because you put the systems in place that this is the only place we communicate, where they're not having to chase everything. And then you also had a complete turnover in staff as well during this year, where you pretty much, I don't think you have anybody left from when you first started.
I have one person, a marketing person still left.
Yep,
she's great. But yeah, I had to really think about what we were going to do. And honestly, slowing down to speed up also gave me the chance to learn from the previous owner's mistakes. Or I shouldn't say mistakes, because the industry was very different 40 years ago. It was very different 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. Our industry is changing at the speed of light and we're not moving with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a broad generalization. But I'm looking at the relationships that were created with these tax preparers and their clients, and I'm like, this is an enmeshed codependent relationship, but it isn't healthy for anybody. When I terminate those clients, they come and ask for a referral to another firm. I can't give them that referral for a multitude of reasons that I won't get into, but it's not my responsibility. I hate to say that, but like, it's not. We just aren't a good fit for the client anymore. We've let them know, and I don't have, unfortunately, any further responsibility to them at this point.
Yeah. Because sometimes you just have to draw the line in the sand and say, this is what I want. And it's just like a relationship. When people change over time and situations change over time, and you and I have a very similar story about that, it has to work. There is no plan B. Yeah. And a lot of times firms aren't looking at it that way. They're just like, I'll just keep going through. And then there's this saying of, well, I'll just work harder. Well, you can only work hard for so long before you're just done. And the thing is, this industry is suffering because people don't want to work in this industry because of the perception. It's not even a perception, it's true, of the way firms are run. And so that's why we have such a staffing problem, and the turnover is so high. So if you could say, if somebody is on the fence about getting coaching from somebody in the industry, what would you say?
I would say stop dawdling about it and just do it, because the one kind of regret I have was not doing it sooner. I wasn't ready, I guess, probably to make those changes, but I wish I'd done it sooner. I could have made a lot more money. I could have avoided a lot of stress. I could have avoided stressing out my team unnecessarily and having to lay people off that thought they were going to be able to rely on this job for income for their families because they just weren't a good fit for the job. Like I would save myself a lot of pain by
Yep.
getting coaching sooner. But the number one thing, I think you asked me like a couple of times, like, what was the number one thing? Um, pricing ended up being the number one thing that would change my entire business ultimately. If I could figure out the right pricing that I felt confident about and knew the clients were willing to pay, that gave me enough space to live off of it, but also have a team that we need to have.
Hmm. So since you brought up pricing, I want to dive into that because that's just my jam too. Um, we didn't give you a pricing calculator.
Mm-mm.
We didn't make it easy for you.
No.
We coached you on actually how to listen to what the client wants, what services you were willing to provide, and what you felt good about. We never once told you price this. We challenged you back and forth to get where you wanted to go. And then one of the formulas we gave you is what revenue do you want?
Right.
And how many clients do you want to work with? And I remember that first time we gave you that, you were like, oh, no.
Yeah.
But because there's such a conception in the industry, if I just had the right calculator or the right software to figure out pricing, but it's really not like that. It's really value pricing is what it is. It is value, what the client perceives and what you're actually delivering.
But it also, that exercise was very helpful because if I listened to just what my current book of business was telling me, I would never have gotten out of the hamster wheel I was on, and I never would have been able to reprice to the point where I needed to because they were not ideally aligned clients. I had a lot of people telling me things that they wanted that would never be realistic in the way I need to run this firm. And honestly, they would never get what they wanted if they were working with someone who was charging those prices and had the volume that we had. Because we can't do it.
Mm-mm. So you brought up something interesting about if you would have based it on the book of business that you have, because you had a firm full of non-ideal clients, just like I did. And if you would have listened, you wouldn't have changed much. But what you also did is you dove into what you wanted, what kind of team you wanted, what type of people you wanted to work with. And it was ultimately also about relationships with your team and your clients. And so that helped drive that pricing to where it needed to be versus where you were. And then you got extremely clear on who you wanted to serve.
Very clear. And that has helped a lot. And my team is understanding more of where we're going. Is one of the other things that we learned, like I've learned through you guys, is I've always known this working for other people, that if I don't understand where the organization is going and how I fit into their mission, then it was hard for me to be really committed to the job. I want my team to understand where we're going. And if they really like believe in our mission, they're going to be much more motivated to work with our clients and help make these changes. My current newest hire is dealing with all the mistakes that I made for the last 3 years. And that while I feel guilty about that, we talk about it regularly. She knows where we're headed and she's like excited about it. And I don't think holds it against me because we're at least trying to fix it now.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but she's helping you kind of unravel it, but she knows what the end is.
Right.
And that's how I held my team on too. I was like, okay, we're just going on this ride, but you're gonna have to hang on for a bit. And that's what it's about, is that clear communication with your team to let them know, hey, this is a short term, and it's going to take a bit, but here we are. And then, and she has been instrumental in helping you implement a lot of stuff. And she has really hung on, because I know she's reached out to us like, hey, can I get help with this? So it's where it's able to get stuff off your plate too, because that's what we do too, is we work with the team, because it's not all about you doing the stuff. It's like Corrin said earlier, I need to have people with strengths that I don't have to get stuff off my plate too.
Right. And I think one of the biggest problems with this industry is that a lot of us just work alone, and that's been okay. And that's fine for some people if you want to just be a sole practitioner. But we have to be realistic about the amount of work we can actually do with the time that we have, whether it's just
Mhm.
our time or our time and 4 team members' time. We have to be realistic about that. And when I stop and think about how much time we actually have to dedicate to serving an individual client, we're in a time deficit.
Mhm. Yep. I was thinking about that the other day. I was setting up a new tax return, and I was like, "Oh my god, it takes so much time just to set up a new tax return just in just in the software by itself." And then you add a business that has a whole bunch of depreciation, and then you have to add all those fixed assets, and it's like, why are people not charging for this? It amazed me because I was like, I'm gonna do this just to see how long it takes because I was working on something for content and I was like, I'm gonna do this to see how long it takes. And I was like, and that's me knowing the software like this.
And the like absolutely bonkers to me a thing about it is that a lot of clients get discounted their first year.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest year to work with them because we're getting to know them and trying to make sure that everything that was on the return last year is actually accurate before we put it
Mhm.
on this year's return.
Yeah. You and I could keep going on and on
You
for
know,
that on that. So
we're all
uh
heated about this stuff.
so what advice would you give people that are feeling stuck and overwhelmed because we're right at the September 15th deadline. So I know they're out there. What advice would you give them that you've learned along the way?
There's a better way, and you do not have to work with everybody who wants to work with you. They're the right clients are out there. It comes down to how you're messaging your services and whether or not you believe you're worth the prices you're charging. Like that's the core problem. If we don't believe we're worth it, then we're never going to be able to communicate our value to our clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've done a lot of mindset work on that because we don't realize, and this is as an industry as a whole, myself included, because we've gone to school for so long for this stuff. We do all kinds of continuing education, and to us, it's common knowledge. And so we don't realize how much knowledge is literally up here because that's what people are paying for is your brain. That is what they're paying for because there's some people that I know that can just rattle off the tax code like there's nobody's business, but then they're not charging for it. And how long did it take you to get there? So that's key what you just said.
It's this, and again, like these are things that I kind of knew in concept, but I didn't realize I was sabotaging myself. Like I know that I went to school for 6 years and took 4 really hard exams while I was working full time, traveling 4 days a week for big firms. Like, I know how hard it was to get to where I am. Why don't I bring that with me to every client interaction as my value? Why am I
Hmm.
discounting it every time I sit there and try to price something?
Yep. Yep. So looking ahead, what are some of your goals that you have for this next year? I know you've been working really hard this year to have a more efficient tax season next year, but you also have some other stuff in the pipeline that you've been working on too. So what are some of those things that you got going on?
So I've been seeking out more opportunities to learn from people that have done the things that I think will work for my firm. And I've been actually able to find other firms that are highly successful doing exactly what I want to do. So that removed the doubt from my brain that this is a sustainable business model, but also put the fire under my rear end because I don't want to be the last one to the table to get my 3% of clients. Let's be honest, we only need 3% of the population to want to work with us.
Hmm.
3%.
Yep.
If you don't have to work with 90% of the people that talk to you, you only have to work with 3% of them. That means that so many people will say no before they say yes, and that's okay.
Hmm. Yeah. So I am so proud that we get to work with you. My entire team actually gets to work with you, and we are so proud of the progress that you have made. And I really appreciate you sharing the story. So, because I know our industry needs it to hear from more people just like you, so we can move on and push and put because the accounting small businesses need a good accountants.
Yeah, we've talked about all the like awesome ways that you and your team have helped me get out of this hole, but like the moral of the story is that I think we have a same mission, is that small business owners need accountants. And we can only truly help them if we get out of the way these firms have typically run, where we just don't have the time to actually help. We
Hmm.
need to have the time to actually help our clients stay in business so they can put food on their tables.
Hmm. Yeah. And then, and one of the things that you hit on is too, is like being a specialist into something, where, because you can't service everyone. And we see it all the time where people are like, well, I think I'll try payroll. I'll try this. But at the end of the day, you've got to service where your strengths are and where you want to go. So if you want help with this, make sure DM me where you're at so we can help you to see where you're at, see where you want to go. And it's not a quick fix, as Corrin knows. It is not a quick fix, and she's had some deep conversations with myself and my team.
Just this
But
morning.
yeah, just this morning. So one last question: what does it mean to be able to just send a message and say, I'm having a shit day?
I did it this morning.
Yeah.
um, it's so helpful because it's so lonely, especially for me being surrounded by a family member who has a lot of attachment to the way the firm had been run and doesn't really agree with where I'm going all the time. He's much more supportive of it now. But I feel alone because I can't really be myself with my team. I can to some degree, but like there has to be some separation there. And it isn't my family and friends' responsibility to listen to me moan about my business all day long. That's not their responsibility. I need to be responsible for my own needs and go out and find a coach that can help me solve these problems. And that's what I did.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Corinne. I can't wait to see where you go next. And I appreciate you joining me on this live. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was fun.